So now we're going to talk about the solar concentrators. So my name is Rohitsai, and here we have the contents. So first we have what is a solar concentrator and why we can use it. Then we're going to talk about different types of solar concentrators used. Then why concentrated solar power is better than that of the photovoltaic cells. So that's what we're going to discuss about. And then we're going to talk about a few advantages. Then we're going to talk about another concept called solar power tower. And we're also going to talk about something which is related to the whole world. Something like why we need concentrated solar power, which is CSP, the short form. So just in case if you don't get it. So next we're going to talk what is a solar concentrator. So solar concentrator mainly is a device that allows sunlight, which collects the sunlight from overall on a large area, and then focuses into a very small area like a receiver type. So this is a small mirror type focusing on sun. Wherever it goes, it concentrates on the sunlight, then it receives the sunlight onto the PV cells, then the PV cells generate the electricity. So this is usually how it goes with the solar concentrator. Then we talk about why we can use it. Because the installation cost is too a solar PV system, which is the previous version of the concentrators, which is too expensive. So to reduce the cost, we use concentrators, and it's an affordable process. As you know, it's less cost and it requires not a bigger area, so it's an affordable process too. And the efficiency is also increased day by day. As we can see, that a lot of technology is being used. We're going to talk about a few technologies later on. Then also it increases the intensity of solar irradiance. Solar irradiance is nothing but the capacity of the solar sunlight which it takes in. The capacity at which it produces the electricity is way too high compared to that of the other systems. It's another reason why we use the concentrators. So next we're going to talk about a few types of solar collectors or the concentrators, as you can see. First is a parabolic trough, second is a Fresnel, third is a parabolic dish, then we're going to talk about solar power tower. So as you have 4 different types, these types are actually uses different technologies. As you can see, there are 4 different types. There's a reflector, there's a refractor, the hybrid, and the luminescent. So when we use the parabolic trough or the dish, so it uses reflector, which actually it's on the concentrator, and the sun rays directly reflect onto the PV cell. Whereas the Fresnel lens, they use the refractor, which upon hitting the concentrator, the sun rays actually get refracted to the PV cell. And we have the hybrid and the luminescent, which use some advanced technology, and they actually experience both reflection as well as the refraction. So these are the 4 different type descriptions. Now we go over the main types. Starting with first the parabolic trough. So this is a general design of the concentrator as it looks. It's the U shape with the mirrors installed in a parabolic way. Then you have the straight line, as you can see, a rod kind of thing. That is nothing but the PV cell, so which takes in the sunlight and generates electricity. So this is how it looks. So now we're going to talk about the operation of the parabolic concentrators. First we're going to talk parabolic mirror reflects solar energy onto a receiver. So first what happens, the sunlight throws onto the mirror, it reflects onto a receiver. As you can see in the previous image, there's a tube attached, the straight one, so that's a receiver. Second, heat transfer fluid such as oil, salt, or water is circulated through the pipe. So there's a fluid going on in the pipe, flowing in the pipe. So what happens generally is when the sunlight actually falls on the pipe, due to the heat, the oil or the salt gets heated up to the temperature from 250 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So due to heat, then it generates the electricity. Then we say that the collectors that track sun from east to west during day. So what it does is it can track the sun wherever it is, whichever direction, all day. It doesn't matter which direction it is. Then we talk about the thermal energy transferred from the pipe to the process. So as you can see in the image, there's a receiver, then it goes to the condenser, steam condenser, then you have the storage tanks, then we have a turbine. So what turbine does is actually it rotates, due to which the generator produces electricity to the grid. So this is how it actually operates. And this is actually a parabolic trough power plant, looks like. This is the one in California near LA, Los Angeles, and this is one of the biggest solar concentrated power plants in the world, and they're quite efficient. They actually produce electricity to almost the whole west part of US. And then next we're going to talk about the compact linear Fresnel reflectors. The Fresnel reflectors actually they make up for some disadvantages of parabolic trough, because parabolic trough they have some design problems and some weaknesses, like they need a pretty huge installation, so that's one of the thing, and even the KVA rating is too high, so this makes up for it, and there are quite a few losses too. So this is the image, and this is actually pretty similar to that of the parabolic trough, just that it uses a long and shallow mirrors, and they don't have the tubes as you can see in parabolic trough. And several mirrors share the same receiver, hence reduced tracking mechanism complexity and cost compared to parabolic trough. And they also have the denser packing of mirrors possible, so it takes half the land area required for parabolic trough. So that's one of the advantage for the Fresnel. Then we're going to talk about something interesting. It's called the tower, which is a solar power tower. It's also known as central tower. So this is mainly a tower, like a tower, it's a huge tower, and they have this thing called as the heliostats. So what are these heliostats? Heliostats are mainly the reflectors. So the solar power tower is usually like a furnace using a tower to receive the focused sunlight. It uses an array of flat movable mirrors, like called heliostats, to focus the sun's rays upon the collector tower, which is a target. So target is the tower. The tower takes the sunlight, reflects onto the heliostats. So that's how it works. Then we have the concentrated solar thermal. It's seen as one viable solution for renewable pollution-free energy. Then you have the solar power tower, consists of an array of heliostats, like lots of heliostats that concentrate sunlight onto the receiver, a tower. And the receiver contains fluid deposit as oil or molten salt, which can consist of seawater. The working fluid is heated up to 500 to 1000 degrees Celsius. So it's way too high compared to that of parabolic trough. And then used as heat source for power generation or energy storage systems. So this is also very useful technology that's being used right now. Then we're going to talk about the power tower development, which is less advanced than the other system, but they offer higher efficiency compared to that of parabolic trough for the solar power tower, and they have a better energy storage capability. So as you can see, this is an image of a solar power tower with a lot of heliostats around them. So this is one of the plants that they're installed in California. This one is actually near Nevada. In Nevada, actually, it comes near Las Vegas. This is also a huge plant. Then we're gonna talk about the working of the tower, solar thermal tower. So here we're gonna talk about a few points related to that. First, we're gonna say that about the heliostats, which are like the heart of the system, which are like the main parts of the system which reflect the heat to the receiver on top of the tower. So heliostats is one huge invention actually for the concentrated solar power technology. So then the focus heat boils the water and the thermal receivers. Then the water which boils, it produces a form of steam. Then the plant pipes the stem from each thermal receiver and aggregates it at the turbine. Then we have the steam. The steam powers the standard turbine and generator to produce electricity. So what it usually does, it's a simple technique. What it does, the heliostats taking the sunlight, it reflects the sunlight, falls on the tower. The tower consists of fluid. Due to the heat, the fluid gets heated up, and the heated fluid, it flows through the pipe, goes to the generator, to the turbine, and it generates the steam. Due to the steam, the turbine rotates, then the generator starts to work. As the generator starts, it produces electricity. So this is the working of solar thermal tower. Then, so mainly this is how it looks, the huge plant. You can get the main idea, like you can see the heliostats, you can see the receiver, then it goes to the condenser, the turbine, generator, then the electricity. So this is how it is. Then we're going to compare two technologies. One is the solar concentrators, one the photovoltaics. Actually, the two are interrelated, but when you separate them with different technologies, like as you can see, the PV cells, they use many different technologies. They're like used all over the world, almost everywhere. But solar concentrators, they're a new technology, so they just come up. So it's gonna take time for it to get more efficient, get more versatile, so a lot more can be done. So first we're going to talk about the differences. First we're going to talk about the concentrators. In concentrators, the advantage is that the heat can be stored as thermal energy and converted to usable energy later. And one more thing is that it can provide 24 hours 24/7 day-to-day electricity using energy storage. And then we have the CSP, the concentrated solar power. Efficiency increases with temperature, and it's pretty good for hot sunny places like Nevada, Mexico, Brazil. Yeah, so these are some few places that this can work really well. Then we have the power tower, which are rated peak efficiency of 77%, so which is quite high, pretty high. Then it's relatively new, and improvements are still possible, as we said before. Then we have the photovoltaics. In photovoltaics, we have the batteries. It's mainly the batteries. So energy can be stored in batteries, not a sufficient amount, but it can be stored. And no energy produced without sunlight in photovoltaics. No energy is produced without sunlight. And the efficiency decreases with temperature. And this one's pretty good for cold, sunny places like New York, Boston, Michigan, those places. And PV cell at 0 degrees, the maximum efficiency 24 to 28% is comparatively very low to that of the solar concentrators, which is 77%. And at room temperature, its efficiency is 12%, which is the silicon cells. So it's relatively low compared to that of concentrators. So that's why I say that concentrators have a better advantage in terms of producing electricity, cost, and everything else. Yeah. So next, so now here is a table which tells it about a few locations where some of the huge power plants are installed and the types of concentrators they use in those power plants. So some of them are in the US, like the Arizona, the Nevada, as we saw before, the image of a power plant in Nevada. It's called as the Alpha Solar Curve, and it has an efficiency of 23%. Then the other one in Arizona has 24%. As you can see, the efficiency is the highest efficiency obtained is 77.5%. It's actually in Germany. It's called the Fraunhofer Institute of Solar Energy, and it uses parabolic trough. And it's quite high efficiency. Comparatively, the lowest is in California. It's called the PV International. It uses the Fresnel lens. So as we can see in this table, we can say that the type with the squares, the Fresnel, and the parabolic, and the parabolic dish, the trough. So mainly all the types are used. And in terms of efficiency, parabolic trough is good, whereas in terms of the sun concentration, parabolic dish is good. And yeah, so the advantages for every type. So yeah, so these are the main types that are used everywhere. Yeah. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about the advantages. There are quite a few advantages. It's a proven technology, mainly because it's comparatively better than other renewable sources like the wind, the nuclear, the thermal. Solar has a huge impact overall the world. It's a proven technology, and a lot can be done, a lot of improvements can be done. Yeah. It's suitable for high temperature, as we can see. That's why it's installed in mainly the areas where the temperature is high. Then they're designed for direct steam generation. More efficient electricity generation from steam due to higher temperature of steam without the use of any intermediate transfer medium. So efficiency is more when the steam is generated due to the higher temperature of steam. So that's one more advantage. Then we have the higher capacity utilization. More MW megawatt. MW is megawatt hours produced per megawatt of installed power equipment. So more the megawatts installed, the more the hours produced. So that's one more advantage. The cost is low. Cost is pretty low per megawatt. Can work in hybrid mode with gas, coal, or biomass. So we can actually combine different technologies with solar, like the coal. So we're talking about thermal, and talking about biomass, it's another renewable source. You can actually integrate two different technologies and generate electricity at low cost. Then the other possibility of cost reduction through indigenization in certain technologies. So cost can be reduced further. Yeah. Then it can achieve grid parity in specified time frame through efficiency enhancement, thermal storage, cost reduction, etc. So grid parity is mainly that the cost we're paying in our households, where the electricity is generated direct from the electricity grid. So the cost of the electricity grid can be equal to that of the cost of the electricity produced by the solar concentrator powers. So one day it can be achieved. So yeah, it will be achieved in maybe other 5 to 10 years. Yeah, let's see. Here are the few pictures of concentrated solar powers. So this is mainly the solar tower, as we discussed. As you can see, there's mirrors around. These are called the heliostats. This is usually made of mirror, the glass material. And this tower here, it's called the solar tower. So these mirrors take in the sunlight, and the sunlight reflects onto this tower. So here is the fluid on the tower, which gets heated up and goes to the steam condenser, which generates steam and then electricity. This is one more image of a solar concentrator. This one's the one in Nevada. It comes on the way from LA to Las Vegas. It's pretty big. Look, it looks really cool. You can see it's this whole area of heliostats, and there's a tower in the middle. And this actually generates almost 5 to 10 megawatts of power, which generates whole of Nevada actually. So yeah, so it's pretty big. And this is one more, and this one's actually in UAE. Yeah, it's in Saudi actually. And this actually generates almost 200 megawatts, I guess, more than 200 megawatts. It's actually the biggest power plant in the world right now, which is made by the government of the UAE. So this one's actually comparatively bigger and generates more electricity in the terms of capacity. And this one's how it looks when the whole sunlight is actually reflected. The light is very efficient, and as you can see, this looks good, much efficient. Maybe installation takes a little while, but finally at the end of the day, all it does is it generates electricity and it's pretty efficient. So that's what it matters. Yeah. So this is how it goes. And this is one more in Germany. Actually, this one's from. This is also a solar tower. So then we have the conclusion. In the conclusion, we're going to talk about a few points. First, we're going to talk about the potential that solar energy has all over the world. So it has a vast potential. Its contribution to the world's energy market is still very limited. So there's still a lot of improvement that can be done. Then we have the solar concentrators, which will bring down the cost of the solar cell, thus making the solar technology cheaper and affordable, but at the same time does not compromise on the overall performance of the solar technology. So we are looking at two different aspects, one where it can be more affordable than the other, where it can be more efficient, more work worthy. So two options, so two different things. Then we're going to talk about a lot of different designs of concentrators. So there are a lot of different designs, as we've discussed. There are a lot more coming. It's a lot of new technology, a lot of new designs, and everything has their own advantages and disadvantages. Then at last, I was going to say that, however, in spite of the advanced design achieved so far, there are still a lot of improvement that can be done, especially with the concentrated design. So there's still room for a lot of improvement to be done. So still a lot of research going on. So maybe down the line, another 5 to 10 years, you can see a lot more of solar power plants, a lot more of new technologies on solar. So let's hope for that. Thank you. Thank you.